Hi, I'm Eric from Quarterbank Guitar Studio, and today I want to talk to you about how to get better at the songs that you're learning. Very often when guitar players learn a new song, they'll look it up online, check out some tabs, maybe even buy a book, and then they open up the book or the tab and they start from the beginning and they see how far they can get without making a mistake, right? And then we can continue on with this game as we memorize a handful of notes at the beginning of our song when we're first learning it. And once we feel like, oh, okay, I got these notes, we added a few more. As time goes on, we just really only ever get a picture of the linear movement of that song. What happens if there's a difficult section in that song towards the middle? Usually, with the average approach, that attention never really gets put there that's needed. In that we're always playing from the beginning. Every time I practice the song, I grab my guitar, I pick it up, and I start from the beginning. That becomes a problem, especially as the skills get more difficult when the song progresses. So I've included a PDF file that goes into greater detail and a nice little explanation of how I like to visualize my skills on the guitar and how I start to organize my practice routines. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you a quick example from a real song of how we might start to look at skills rather than just the song, right? Because when we just play songs, it's very difficult to actually improve any of our guitar skills that are then transferable to other songs. Instead, what we want to start to do is extract what all is needed from me in both of my hands to be able to play this song. Let's take a look at a real example. A good question to ask yourself is, why is this song still on my practice stand to begin with? What about this is still tripping me up? We want to start there. So let's just say this song is pretty difficult all around. Let's ask ourselves, what skills do I need to play this song? Taking a look at it at first, you might get kind of overwhelmed. There's a lot of things to look at. Let's just look at where the chord symbols are. All right, so we'll take a look at a couple of the chords. What's happening with the chords? Well, we have a G chord, and then we have a D chord, and then another G chord, and then a D chord, and another G chord, and as it goes on, and then a D chord. So far, so good. Then I have basically a C add 9 chord, and a G/B, and maybe we'll stop there. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to compare the chord symbols to what is actually happening in this song. So I can look here and I can see that, oh, all of that really is just one left hand movement with some precise picking. Same thing as I move on to the D chord. Oh, look at that. That's just the D chord that I know and love. Oh, hey, here we go. This is a G chord again. Now there's something going on with that X, and maybe I'll explore that later. Moving on to the next chord, we got ourselves yet another D. And here we go again with another G chord. Moving on to the bottom, there's another D chord. And here are these other chords. There's my G on a B, G/B, and this guy right here is a C add 9. So right now, just by looking at a song and trying to use my guitar brain to see what skills can I recognize within the song, immediately this should look a little bit simpler. And what I would recommend doing is going through and practicing just the highlighted areas and see if they make sense. I had mentioned at the beginning that starting a song from beginning to end and only ever playing it that way is not really the best way to practice a song. That's a good way to perform a song, and in fact, that's everyone's favorite way to listen to a song. But performing and practicing are not the same thing. And what I want you to start to understand is I have to take a look at what makes this song hard and just break that down to its simplest element. Okay, so let's take a look at those chords. You would go through and practice these chords on your own. The next thing would be, okay, well, what's going on with all these single notes here? I have some hammer-ons and pull-offs there. Oh, hey, look at that. There we are again. And here's this material, and that's identical to the first thing that we did. So I'm going to put a number 1 there. And here's this other thing. Oh, hey, look at that. That's identical to that phrase there. I'm putting a scribble number 2 there. And then I have some non-hammer-on and pull-off single notes here. So we got something new going on there. Number 3. Hey, this looks pretty familiar. That's very similar to number 1, slightly different. And we can see that kind of continues. So looking at this, what skills do I really need? Well, I've kind of broken it down into some simpler things. We've got hammer-ons and pull-offs. From within those hammer-ons and pull-offs, we have some multiple pull-offs, as in I'm pulling off more than once. There was an example where a note was pulling off from a 4 to a 2, and then a 2 to a 0. So I would call those multiple pull-offs. And then there was times where I was pulling off from both the G string to the D string. So just looking at this, if this is what is difficult for me about this song, it would stand to reason I should spend more time practicing this than I would picking single notes or working on string crossing, or if I'd already known the chord vocabulary. Why spend time practicing things that I already know? If I'm having difficulty connecting the scales, the little scale stuff, into the chords, that's what I should be practicing then. The combination of these two skills, practicing them together. So what I recommend is when you're playing songs, take a look at the skills. And how you identify skills is going to depend on your own guitar playing ability level. If you are a beginner, some of these things might not have jumped out at you. If you're a more advanced player, some of these things would have been very obvious when I put them up on the screen. That's fine. It doesn't matter where you're at on the spectrum. You're going to use whatever lens you have available to look at your song and say, hey, I know what that is. I know what this is. I don't know what that is. So maybe I'll ask my teacher about that. What we want to then do is isolate and drill the things that are difficult. Taking the hammer-ons and pull-offs in this scenario and applying it to a multitude of things that I already know how to do. So I'm going to take the skill from this song and I'm going to put it in the context of some other things that I already know how to do. Maybe in another song, I'm playing a song that uses single notes. Maybe I want to practice adding in some pull-offs on there. No harm in doing that. There's nothing that says you can't add a little extra flair to somebody else's song. Totally a legal move. So, in conclusion, when you are practicing and learning songs, if you just spend 3 weeks playing one song and that's all you do, start to finish, work on that one song, compare that outcome to how you think you would be as a guitar player if instead you spent 3 weeks of breaking down each skill and maybe 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day on each little skill over the course of those 3 weeks. Okay, so if I have 2 guitar players, one practices just the skills in isolation from a song, and the other guitar player just practices the song. At the end of those 3 weeks, which guitar player do you think is going to be better at the song? I think the guitar player that's practicing the skills is going to be better at the song. At the end of those 3 weeks, what guitar player do you think will have improved the most in general as a musician? I also think that that person practicing skills is going to improve. So, where do you go from here? Take a look at a song that you're working on right now. Ask yourself, why am I still working on this? What makes it hard? And what skills do I need to get through that section? And then break those skills down to their simplest element and practice them in isolation. You're going to find that you're going to get much better, much faster. Now, going through skills like this is very, very helpful. You're going to notice that over time, you can get quickly overwhelmed. There's a lot of skills going on. When I put up that paper on the screen, there's also some rhythm skills. If you wanted to read notes, there's some key signature stuff, all sorts of things going on. How do I know where to focus the majority of my time versus what is a skill that I don't need to use right now based on my goals? Well, those are all really good questions that a guitar teacher would be better qualified to help you with. So if you don't have a teacher, I highly recommend that you find a qualified one. This is Eric from Quarterbank Guitar Studio, and thanks for watching.